Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. This video is to cover the MySQL part in this course. Not all MySQL. This video is only about what is MySQL, how do we start the server, what is the server is used for, and how do we use PHP files with MySQL codes to create databases and database objects. What is MySQL? MySQL or MySQL is a database management system. There's a lot of database management systems like Oracle, like Microsoft Access, like Fox Pro or Microsoft SQL Server. So MySQL is just one of them. But the difference between MySQL and others, MySQL is created to be an open source database management system, which is basically has been developed to work with Linux as an open source operating system, but has been adapted to other operating systems like Windows and Mac and others. But MySQL, it's free, unlike other database management systems, and can be used with phpMyAdmin. As once you download this exam package, as I told you before, when you download this exam package and start your control panel, you will see that the server is one of the servers that is running here. If it is not running, then you would run it with Apache. So you need Apache to upload your files and PHP files, and you need MySQL to create tables. There is two ways to start your MySQL. In fact, three different ways, which is you can go to the command prompt and then start MySQL and then start using your MySQL commands, or create the database using PHP, as we will do in a minute. Or you can go to graphical user interface. Graphical user interface is after you start your control panel, you can just click on this admin here. Admin. It will start automatically phpMyAdmin, which is the database part of MySQL. It has a lot of different menu items like databases, SQL. So if you'd like to execute SQL commands, you do them here. And then there is a lot of different things like for privileges and to see the users. If you'd like to create new users and give them privileges, so you can remove user or you can add users here in the system. Currently there is the system administrator, which is the root user, and has been installed without password. So there is no password here. If the password here is going to be encrypted. But this one, it works on the host called localhost, as you could see here, localhost, and it is its name as root, so automatically it connects without database. But there is a lot of bases here which has been created by default. Most of these are created by default. I have created some of these databases myself, but CD call, CSDB, information schema, MySQL, phpMyAdmin, test, all these are actually default databases. If you'd like to create a new database, there is two ways. You can create a database right here. For example, I would like to create a database called CS for the CS department. So just click create, and then it will be part of the databases here, CS. Then you can just go to the CS and then start creating tables. Like I would like to create a table called, for example, course. Okay, course with 4 fields. Then you can just go here and field name like course course number, and which is you can choose from the data type. Here the lot of data type like varchar or text or something like that. Here, for example, course title, course title, which I would also choose text or varchar. Create hours, I can use int, keep it int. Start date, for example, you can choose date and time or just date here. So there is a way to create tables here. You can just create here the links. They need the links here for this one. For example, links for course number is 5, and for here for this one 15, for example. This one date and time, just leave it like that. The course table has been created with this, but here you can actually edit, change settings, change the data type, change data size, change the name, or you can just remove or add new or make this primary key. For example, course number, you'd like to make it primary key, then you are altering the table to add primary key on this course number here. So now this one becomes primary key, in which you'll see that underlined here. Okay, so you can edit the table, and you can use SQL here to select all from this course table. You can say select all from this, and then which is there is no data on this right now, but it has data. You will see the data. But this is a course that you created using what? Using course table, using graphical user interface. So again, this is to create databases from here, and then to select the database and create tables and stuff like that. So let me just minimize this one for a second. Okay, minimize this because I would like now to show you how you use PHP with MySQL to test the connection and how to create databases and stuff like that. So first, remember this. Do you remember this folder, htdocs? htdocs is a folder that contains all the files that you actually upload on your server, and you execute them through the localhost. If you remember in the previous video, I have given you like array one from localhost. So for example, if you have localhost here, localhost, and then I put array 1 or array 3, you will see the information. Why are these files array 1, array 2? They're here in htdocs. Again, if you have any file, PHP file, to connect to your database or create tables or create data into the tables or modify anything in the database, you have to save it here in this location in htdocs. So let us test the connection. I have a file here called con. It's going to be PHP file con connection. Con, I call it con for connection. And here is how you can test your connection. I'm going to show you two ways to test your connection to the MySQL database. The first way is to use this connection string. Create a variable, call it anything, call it, for example, link or con or connect, for example, call it anything, and then assign it to this method, which is MySQL underscore connect. What is the arguments for this? The arguments are 3. The computer or the server name, which is localhost, the username, which is root as you have seen in that graphical user interface screen, and this is a password. If there is a password, like you have a password 1 2 3 4 5 6, you put it here. But if there is no password for that user, then there is no password. Leave it between single quotations, empty. So if the user is called Zain, like that, and the password is called 1 2 3 4 5 6, then you connect to this database using localhost, using the user Zain with a password 1 2 3 4 5 6. When you create the user here, earlier I showed you this one. I think it is already opened here. So here, for example, if you go to privileges and you create a user, write a new user, create a new user, for example, call it Zen. Okay, call it Zen, and then the host is localhost, and then the password is 1234566. Retype it 1234566. All right, this is the user. Give him the privileges like you'd like to give him. Select all privileges here, and then I would like just to click go to create the user. So the user has been created. You will see here this Mr. Zain is one of those users which is already created by default, like PMA and root. Then Mr. Zain is here. He has a password, and the password is 1234566. So if you'd like to test the connection to this database using localhost Zain 1234566, you do nothing but you just go here and execute the file here. After localhost, type the file name, which is con.php. Here it is, connected successfully to database. This is a text I have here on my okay, here. Or you can actually create a user. For example, if you have a user called username, and you put username equal Zain here, all right, then you can actually put this one here instead of Zain. Or here you can create a password as a variable name. You can do this, password equal 1234566 between single quotations, and then here you need to use the variable name for the password. Even this one, localhost, you can create it as what? As a variable. If you put like $host name equal this local host, then you can actually replace this one here with the variable, the variable name, which is host name here, like that. Now you have this host name, username, password. So you are using the values that you already set as variables. So let me just put here Mr. Zain username connected successfully to database. Let me just save this one and then refresh. Oh, line 6. What is that? I have line 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Echo dollar username connected successfully to database. So it says the error unexpected enclose strings. Here this one, the mistake was here, and this one should be just semicolon right here. So here it is. But now why is it giving me username connected successfully to this quotation and double quotation? Yeah, here it is. Instead of single quotation, because single quotation was used here, so I'm going to use double quotation. Zain user connected successfully to database. All right, so you can use this one, but in the previous example I have a root user, so I can actually use here root. I can use here, I mean localhost in the first one, localhost, and then we have the user called root after a comma, root, alright, and then single quotation, single quotation. So we have the username root, and you have localhost root and single quotation for the password. So here you can use just root user connected successfully to the database, like that. Root user connected successfully to the database. So there is two ways to connect to the database with test connection. If you have, if you would like to see if there is an error, like earlier you have seen that I had an error, right? So you can use a function to see if you can generate an error when you test the connection. I have a file here which is MySQL connection, this file here, in which I have created this username equal localhost, server name, I mean, or whatever. This is just a variable. Server name is equal localhost, username equal root, password equal nothing. You can use single quote or double quotation, guys. Create the connection. You can create the connection by using a variable, and then you can actually use also this method with MySQL. Server name, username, password. You can use also an error, using an error and using a specifier here for a function called die. Die means this is to give you the connection error. But you can keep it simple as the previous example. But here I have added some more code to this connection. So here I have this one. I'm adding another code by using if statement. So here I have variable called connect equal this, okay? And then here I would like to use if statement. If not connect, that means if this does not connect, this is not logical expression. If not connect means if the connection string fails. If the connection string fails, it could fail for any reason. It could fail for a spelling mistake here, or for the spelling mistake here, or you put something here which there is no password but you put a password, or you put one single quote, you removed one of them by mistake, like I did earlier in that example. But if it is not connecting for any reason, then what? Then execute the function called die. Die accepts these two arguments, which is the string could not connect for any reason. You can write whatever you'd like to write here. Could not connect. But what could not connect for what? For what? This is a built-in error message that will be generated by using MySQL error. MySQL underscore error will generate that error message. MySQL select database. This one will select a database that is already there. So you can actually have it there, or you can just remove this one if you don't want to test a specific connection to a specific database. So this one means if there is an error, give me an error message, and then otherwise else execute this message. Let me remove this repeated message. Execute this message, which is connected successfully to the database. This one, it is optional. MySQL close. This one, by the way, it should be the variable that you created earlier. If it is link, then you use link. If it is connect, then use connect. Whatever variable that you declared earlier here in the beginning, you have to use it in the if statement, and I have to use it in the close. This one is optional. You don't have to close connection, but it's always recommended that you close the database connection for vulnerable intrusion from outside the company. So you are recommended to actually close the connection. But if you don't close, it's okay. So let me try this example. So if there is an error, it will give me an error. Otherwise, it will give me connected successfully to the database. Alright, let me just execute this. So connected successfully to the database. But if there is an error, like for example, I use different string here. password. Then I would like to actually try to connect. It gave me could not connect. This is the error that I was talking about. Could not connect. Access denied for user using password. Yes, using password. That means you actually said there is no password, but you are using password. So this is the error message generated by this function die. When you remove this one, because you said there is no password and there is no password, you refresh, then it will give you that. So this is how to connect to the database and how to make sure that your database is working. Okay, now let us go one step more to create a database. So I'd like to create database. Create database. Let me just use this example to create a database. So this part we already have done it, which is to test the connection. You can create a variable, any variable. You have seen that they have created a variable called connect, link, whatever. It is not a big deal. You create any variable name, but you have to use that variable name later whenever it is, whenever you like to use it. Again, you have to use the same variable name. So this one equal to MySQL connect localhost root quotation. Said you can use double quotation or single quotation here. Then this one we have just done it earlier in the previous example, which is if there is no connection, if the connection has an error, execute this function and give me an error message like that one. Here I would like to create a variable called db name and assign it to a database called JUC. Okay, and then I would like, of course, this one there is no need for this one, but here I would like to include it so that if there is already a database called JUC, it will give me an error, because here I said if my SQL select database, if you select the database, which is this database name, which is JUC, then tell me that database, whatever name it is, already exists. Otherwise, create the database with that name. Which name? JUC. So how do you store this statement? The statement create database with the database name will be stored in another variable that you create for this purpose, which is here I call it SQL string. You can call it any name. Then you assign this name to what? To MySQL query. So MySQL query is actually the main statement that execute the database creation, which is this statement, which has been stored here in this variable name. That's why you use this variable name as an argument for this method. This one is actually just an addition, because or die means either create the database or die. That means either create the database or give me an error message, tell me that you are unable to execute the query. And then the rest of it is concatenating a lot of different things. You are concatenating the error code and the MySQL error number that you can generate from the database, and and then error message. This is error number, which can give you a specific error number that you can search with, or you can get a specific error message based on that connection string that you have already declared. Otherwise, if there is no error, what is going to happen is going to give you this one: successfully created that database. Which database? That database. This database that you have done here. So let me go there and create a database called JUC, and then try to execute my statement. So here it is. I would like to create a database called JUC, and then create. Okay, so JUC is created. So now I'm expecting that. I'm expecting what? I'm expecting that this statement, when I execute this statement, it will, because JUC has already been created here, right? So now, after it tests the connection and there is no problem with the connection, everything is fine, then it will assign the JUC to this name. Then it will select that, MySQL database select method will select this database, which is JUC. It will find it that it is already in the database. So it will tell me that database JUC already exists. خلاص. Then it doesn't go anymore. it will just stop here. Otherwise, if the database does not exist or there is a different name, then it will execute the rest of it, of this. What is the rest of this? The rest of this is to create the database with that name, which is JUC, and then execute the query calling that my SQL string as an argument for this MySQL query method. So now what I'm expecting to give me this message, which is database JUC already exists, because I just added it here. Let me just try to execute it. What is the file name called? The file name is called create db test. Okay, so create db test. Sorry. Create db test.php. Already PHP available. Database JUC already exists. Why? Because as I told you, it is already here. So let me just delete, drop this database from here. So I'm gonna drop this database. So there is no database. So I would like to execute this file again and see what happens. Execute it again. Just refresh. Successfully created the JUC database. So now let me go and refresh here and see if it is there. It is there. See that? Here it is. So what is going to happen, guys, if I refresh again? If I refresh again, it's going to give me that the database JUC already exists. Of course, because it's just been created, right? So again, this file, again, I'm going to go through this file again. This is to test the connection, okay, like we did earlier in the previous example. Even this one is not important. I can just cut it. Look, I can just cut it. So this one is okay. This one is just to connect to the database, but this one is added just to test the connection. If this connect string is working, if it is not working, this is not means this is what's called make this condition false. So if it is not connecting, if this connect is not working, then give me the error message. Otherwise, I can put else here, but there is no need for else. We just put assign JUC to DB name and then use if statement also. If it is already existing, then give me this this statement, which is database DB name already exists, and tell me what is the database. And database name is the name that I have assigned here. Otherwise, else create it using create database with that name, use a variable name, and assign it and put it in this string. Then create a new string and put it in this method that will actually execute the query, execute the create database query. This one also is not important. As I told you, you can just remove it from here, but you are adding it to check to see if there is an error. So I can remove this one completely and just put my semicolon right here. So let me create a new database, database 2, just to check that this is working. And then here it is, successfully created database 2, right? JUC2. And I told you that this one is not important. I can just remove it. Let me create JUC3. Okay, here it is. Save it and then save it, because I know that the connection is good. There is no reason for testing it. Here it is. Successfully created JUC3. And what else? This one also is not important. Just to close the connection, you can add it. It is recommended that you add it, but if you don't add it, it's okay. Let me just remove it and then save, and then create JUC4. Save. Here it is. JUC4 is created. What else can I do? If this one, okay, this one also is not important, so I can actually remove this one. Why? Because I'm checking to see if database exists. Yeah, and it is important, by the way, but it is not, it is an optional, because here, for example, if I create this again, it will tell me that database JUC4 already exists. But if I know that I don't want to create JUC4, I would like to create 5, which is not there. So this one is not important. I can just remove it completely from here. I remove this statement, and then save my file, and then execute it. Here, successfully created the JUC5, right? Look at that. I'm making my statement very small. So that's it. So this is actually, the file is as small as this one, but I was just, the rest of it is either checking the connection, if it is right, if it is correct connection or not, or checking to see if the database already created in the database or not, or closing the database, which is all optional. Now it works fine. But now what happens if I just did this again? I don't have a user defined message, but I have this message. Every time you click here, then you go here and you refresh, and here you see that the database actually are not going to be created multiple times, one time, even though you are refreshing it many times, but because the database cannot be repeated in the system. But that is to give you an error, a message, a readable message that the database already exists. So I'm going to actually remove all these databases from here manually, and then drop all these databases. Yes, so I'd like to drop all of them. Okay, and then refresh. Here it is. So now basically in this video I have did many things, not many things, but only just to test the connection and create a database. In the next video I will show you how to create a table, okay, to create a table, and also how to insert data in that table using PHP files. Okay, thank you so much, and I will please check the next video, inshallah.